Hi, Gary. Welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you, Lacey. Glad to be here.
I have so many questions for you. I am so excited. Are you ready for this?
You bet. You bet. Let's do it.
I'm yeah, I'm really excited to talk about entrepreneurship with you. So, I want to start with you have founded GameStop, Laura Mercier Cosmetics. What are some of the key points along the way where you realize this is a moment to scale your business and do it successfully? Or was it just you went with your gut feeling?
No, and further you peel me back, I did not decide I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was working in a large corporate environment, specifically department stores, and had developed a point of view that specialty stores were taking the lunch of department stores and that any category of consumer goods that reached measurable size, the specialty store channel would become an important, if not dominant, channel of distribution. So my graduate business school buddy was a partner at Bain, and he was in the Silicon Valley and had developed a very strong point of view about the coming emergence of video game systems and video game software, and that as an array of systems came out, the array of software to fill those systems would be so great that most stores couldn't carry a good assortment. As he was telling me that, I said, well, wait a second. I have this point of view that specialty stores, exactly what you said, will emerge. I think you should quit your job at Bain and I'll quit my job in the department store because everything you've said about the coming rise of video game hardware and software really rings true to me. So I think we have a real opportunity. So we were both very sober. We weren't really entrepreneurs saying we got to do something on our own. We got to go do that. That wasn't us. It is a lot of entrepreneurs, but obviously, you know that old saying, to a carpenter with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Well, we feel the same way, and I feel the same way since we came at our business at Babbage's, now GameStop, and at the cosmetics company very analytically. We don't see the burning need to have entrepreneurial blood. Now, I have to tell you that after 12 years at GameStop, I felt like I could start a company, that I knew, because I had done it before, I knew what would be required to start a cosmetics company. So my eyes were a little more open, a little less rose-colored glasses as thinking about the type of work that would be needed to launch a cosmetics brand. So I'm a little bit torn. I don't want to act like I was always an entrepreneur. It clearly, now the record shows that I am more of the type that you typically see amongst entrepreneurs.
Well, having said that, what is your advice for entrepreneurs or people that think or
Sure,
are toying with the idea of going into entrepreneurship?
sure.
What should they know?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think first, I'll say what they shouldn't know. Uh, I think that historically, business has done a disservice to young people by saying, pursue your passion. Uh, that passions, like hobbies, should be done in your spare time. And a good business plan will always beat a good passion project. So so the first thing is, don't think passion, think what is a need in the market that I think I have a way to solve that other people haven't been able to solve. So I think that's the first I think that's the first thing and a really important thing for entrepreneurs to know. And then secondly, you just have to do your homework. You have to understand the market size. You have to know that there's a business there. You have to understand the competitive set. You have to understand, can you build a moat around your business? Can you protect it so a new company doesn't come in and rip you off? You know, there are the kinds of questions that you need to think about are not that hard, but you have to think about them because every time you solve a potential in your mind, a potential problem, you're moving a step closer to turning your vision into a reality. So I guess it's just, I'm an objective and analytical guy, and I think more people should be that same way, because you reduce to the irreducible the chance that you might mess something up if you've been highly analytical.
Do you think, because in the military community, especially military spouses, they do a lot of volunteer work. And I think in the businesses that I've built, doing the work and being in that environment and paying attention has actually helped. Do you think that if you are starting to see something or want to find things that are missing in the world that you possibly could do, that you should get out there and start doing it and not just jump
Yeah,
in like cold?
and you're just in that example you just laid out. Are you thinking in terms of it as you described? The wife was seeing opportunities. Is that who you're talking about chasing it, versus the person who might be in an enlisted?
Well, both. It's the same thing for an active duty service member. They are working full time, but starting to prepare for what they want to do after the military. And a lot of times it's not going to work for somebody else, that they want to be their own boss or lead their own way after they get out. So it's for both.
So so I will put something out there that I think is good to be aware of, but not necessarily drive you towards something because of it. They're really in management in general. At the two extremes, when I start talking about corporate structure, corporate communications, and things like that, there is a command and control sort of approach to management, and there's an entrepreneurial approach. And the command and control approach is the military. There's a chain of command. Commands come down from the top. People sort through, as it works its way through the layers, what they can impact in order to solve whatever has been laid out there. But it's very much people doing the work that is required of them at that level. Shifting to an entrepreneurial environments are probably easiest described by ask for forgiveness instead of permission. Okay? You can't get away with that in the military. So you have to. So the reason I'm telling you this is you just have to be aware of it. If you are leaving your tour of duty in the military, and you're stepping out into a civilian role, and you have an entrepreneurial idea, I would just suggest that you just need to always be aware that it's a very different environment that you've been in. You have to wake up every day. What's new? What is the pressing issue of the day? It's not what it was yesterday. It's not what it's going to be tomorrow. So you have to be really quick at swiveling your hips if you're going to do something entrepreneurial coming from a military background. Now, I believe the entrepreneurial bug is what got us APHIS and other things. APHIS is actually one of the greatest retailers in the world, and people aren't necessarily that aware of it. I believe it came out of the military, but it was highly entrepreneurial. The whole notion of let's keep people on the ground in their locations and bring whatever they need to them, as opposed to getting them off the base, looking around trying to find a Walmart, trying to find something in a nearby location. Well, I think APHIS to me is everything that and I used to be a little bit of a student of theirs because they were doing so many things right, that to me, that's exhibit A. Of course it can be done. Of course an entrepreneurial venture can be launched by someone that's been in the military. Again, different approach for success, different keys to success, but that doesn't mean that they can't be done.
Earlier, you were mentioning, about doing something that the world needs, like, and you can solve that problem versus something that you're passionate about. I, as an entrepreneur, you're putting it all in. Like you said, like you're getting up, you're trying to, pay attention, do all of these things, and you have a lot of business experience. What are strategies for people managing their emotions, not taking it personal? Because you are managing teams, you're trying to network, you're trying to get business, all of these things. And
Yeah.
especially when it's so personal for you and you're trying to get customers, and they're saying that if the customer is always right, that's really hard when it's given up time away from your family,
Yeah.
and you're eating ramen to swallow that.
Uh, no, you are completely right. I think that is a again, this is one of the core things that someone who is leaving the military and decides they want to be their own boss, they want to do something entrepreneurial. This is exactly the type of conversation that someone needs to have with them to be sure that their eyes are wide open. It is different. In the best case, their days are wildly different when they're trying to start something, whether it's bootstrap, whether they've raised some money from family or friends, or however they approached it. And that's easy to talk about, but it's really hard to internalize. If you're waking up at 2 a.m. and you cold sweats because you're worried about, did I make a good decision to start this venture? Should I have done something differently yesterday? Oh my gosh, what if that's what I'm talking about the command and control versus ask for forgiveness and not permission. It takes a very different mindset. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do it, but you have to know. You have to be very sober, very clear-eyed about, boy, is this going to be different? Things are going to come. You can't see around corners. It's a new business. There may be a new entrant who's doing exactly what you're doing, but better, cheaper, and faster. There are all those things that come up, and you have to be ready before you're actually in the heat of battle. You have to be ready to have thought about these sorts of things. So when all of a sudden you're confronted with something, you have to have at least thought through, oh, I was told I would have a day like this. And I think again, it's just communication. And and that's one reason, by the way, I love what you're doing. And when I understood it and asked questions, you are filling a need, an enormous need in the military, because they will turn to you because you've got the legitimacy based on your background. You're an entrepreneur, and you're here to talk about, and you seek people out to talk about these very issues, which can be huge for people when they're trying to change into civilian gear and be their own boss.
Yeah, I think for me, it was really hard to build all that I've built, and very challenging for my family. Like, we've made a lot of sacrifices, and I don't want that for other people. I want it to be a little bit easier. So that's why I love having these conversations, because I would like to shorten the learning curve for people and for them to be making money a little bit sooner. But I like the point that you brought up, like, things are going to happen. Like, I really appreciate you saying that I can't see around corners, because that is exactly how I feel. Like, if I could, I would have mitigated that. So, but how do you deal with the emotions of when, like, you're in it, like you're building it, or you're doing the work and trying to plan for everything, and you get hit with something? So, for example, I got hit with a trademark issue, and it was
Mm-hmm.
like just something that obviously I wasn't planning for, something that I felt was wrong, but would cost me a boatload of money to prove myself right. And
Mm-hmm.
so making a strategic business decision versus, like, that really hurts. And
Yep.
I want to act out of hurt, not out of smart business. What's your advice for people to cope with that type of stuff?
Well, the first thing I'd invite you to think about is, clearly in what you just described, you're sitting on top of a company. Okay, you're the top person. the thing that I have seen and appreciate so much in startups and in emerging growth companies, everyone in your company is watching your face. They want to see how you react when you have an incoming that you didn't expect. And they will react, that old when in danger, fear or doubt, run in circles, scream and shout. Some people do that. And when the leader of a company does that, everyone else in the company goes, oh my gosh, I don't know if we're going to make it. Should I leave? Should I go find something else? Yeah. If you're at the top and you start with that thought, that will calm you down. That will calm you down because you have to know everyone on your team is looking at you. So now you have an opportunity to model behavior which will have future payoff for the people in your company if they can see and be very open and honest. Hey, folks, we've got an intellectual property issue and didn't see it coming. We've got several options here. I'm going to examine them. We're going to figure out what are the costs and benefits of each potential solution. We're going to think about the time that will be involved, the capital that will be involved, and we're going to make the best decision we can make. And when you talk to people like that, they calm down. And so I would always, for me in an entrepreneurial venture, when something pops up, and it will, you have to have your game face on as the leader, as the coach, as the person that everyone looks up to and keys off of. And so I would tell you, if you start with it's a coaching point for my team members, you'll calm yourself down, and then you can quietly go about worrying about it instead of and running out. Because I've done that a bunch in my life.
That makes me feel better, Gary. That makes me feel a lot better knowing that you did that.
Well, I could with precision tell you based on the terms that I gave my customers when their checks would arrive. And of course, they never arrived on that date, but I had payroll. So I'm sitting out on the curb waiting for a mail truck to show up with the hope that I can get a check that I can run to the bank so the payroll check's clear. Well, that's an interesting thing versus when you were running a $200 million piece of business in the corporation that you left to start this. All of a sudden, you're sitting on the curb on a cold winter day, looking in both directions, trying to see where the mail truck is. It's an extremely different type of life. And some people are wired for it, and some people aren't. And you'll figure that out after you have half a dozen of those moments that you described. You'll know your answer. You'll be able to look yourself in the mirror and go, I can't do this. I am not wired to do this. Or, we've had some good coaching opportunities. I've watched people rise to the challenge in the company. We're getting better. And will that stop future things from happening? No, but we are getting better as a company. And it fills you up, and you're ready to march right back in there tomorrow and tackle the next day.
Yeah, I feel like the more to those things happen, that you get better at coping or overcoming them a lot quicker, because then it's like, hey, wait a minute, like I figured this out before, I'll figure it out again. Like it's not the end of the world. I always like to remind myself too that I'm not the first one this has happened to, and I won't be the last one. I know that, but I always think that like you're not special, Lacey. Like this isn't unique. So
you are 100% right, and it's like, so what I have, because I'm so much older and been around the track so many times, I have pattern recognition now, so that I know no matter how I've been working on one of our family businesses is a cookie company, makes cookies. Well, we had to go to a bigger digs after 13 years. Business got really good when we moved to a bigger building. That building has cost twice as much as I projected and is taking twice as long as I projected to get finished out for us to move in. And it's like I can just look in the mirror and go, I knew that was going to happen. I can't believe I knew it was going to happen. There's nothing particular I can mitigate against it, except I didn't have to sell the building we were in when I sold it. And so now it's like we're going to go through 6 weeks with nowhere to make cookies. And, we're going to have working out of our garage at the house. This is a big company. And we're going to revert back to the way it started for probably 4 to 6 weeks, which is cooking in my kitchen at home. They'd be making cookies in the kitchen. So it doesn't matter how many times you've seen the movie, you will always see something different.
In your book, Always Learning, you highlight the importance of continuous improvement. How can entrepreneurs, I don't know, grow on that or cultivate a mindset that they should innovate, and that might be hiring? If they are trying to improve, and like I find often that I'm the cog in the wheel, that I'm slowing things down, and maybe improvement will come from hiring. How can people do that?
Okay, you ask really good question. I love your background and experience is such that you've seen this rodeo. So there is I've been talking with my co-founder from GameStop recently about my list of leadership principles, one of which is continuous improvement. And he's invited me to think about it differently because the world that we operate in now is quite different than the one was when we started this decades ago. And he thinks the right term should be continuous change. And there's a significant difference. Continuous improvement means keep doing what you're doing, just do it better, smarter, and faster than you were doing before. Your unit costs will come down, you'll be more profitable, all things will be good. Maybe it should be continuous change, where every now and then you sit down with your team and talk about what could we have done better and how should we change. Specifically, and I loved your example, the team. Is the team still right for what we're doing, or do we need to tweak it? Let me give you a good example, kind of a textbook entrepreneurial thing. When you start a company, you're best off to hire unicorns. And what a unicorn is someone who can do anything. So you can show up today and say, Mary, you're going to have to be in accounting today because our books got messed up. And tomorrow you go, hey, Mary, you're going to have to be in the warehouse because something happened and we're short of corrugate and we need to figure out how we're going to get boxes shipped out of here. And early on in the life of a company, you need unicorns. But you hit a point as you start growing where what you really need is a subject matter expert, where you didn't need Mary to go in the accounting department and get it straight, although she did. You need somebody running accounting who's done it before, knows what good looks like, knows how to organize and operate for success. And you may need a distribution leader who that's all they've done in their background and experience, and they can stop things from happening like running out of corrugate. So having an entrepreneurial founder understand when they hit the inflection point, that the people they've hired to date may not be the right people to get you to the next level of growth. But that's what entrepreneurial founders have to think about. And that's why I like change so much instead of improvement, because Jim and I have a whole list of things at GameStop we didn't do very well. And we can see it with years of hindsight now behind us that we weren't thinking about change. How have the malls in America changed from enclosed regional malls to strip centers? How has pricing changed from when we started selling video games until today? And might there be room for trade-ins or used video games, or took us too long to figure that out. Took us too long to figure out we could go into strip centers for a lot less capital than we were spending in the malls and still get great returns from the strip centers. So if you open your aperture up and you think more broadly because of the word change instead of improvement, continuous change instead of continuous improvement, you'll give yourself permission to now start looking at every part of the company. And while I'm at it, when entrepreneurial leaders, have to be the most jumpy when business is good. Okay, when things are working, everyone else should be enjoying it and doing everything and going after it and celebrating, and everyone should do that. The CEO or the founder needs to be thinking about, oh, can't see around corners. What could it be? How should we be thinking about our next steps? Because this won't last forever, and I know it and everybody else knows it. So what is our next leg of growth? What should we be doing now? And that's only the CEO can. That's what the CEO ought to be worrying about. And people used to laugh at me when companies I'd be involved with would start going gangbusters. And I mean, I'd get there earlier and earlier. I'd be doing this with my hands all day because I was just nervous because I knew something bad had to happen because things were going too well. And no one else seemed to be worried about it. And I figured, oh, well, it's my job to worry about that. So that's what I did.
That kind of leads into my next question about exiting a business. It's kind of a two-part. Should people start with the end in mind? And if they haven't, what if they are starting to think about that they want to exit their business? How can they become more desirable? They're making people want to buy their business.
Sure. Sure. Well, first of all, I wouldn't ever start something with the exit in mind because your first years in a new startup, you're learning things you didn't know. And all of a sudden, you've got something that all you know for sure is it wasn't what you were envisioning
Yeah.
back on day one, minute one. So thinking about the exit too early isn't a good thing. Thinking about an exit professionally is a good thing. But I think you have to start with yourself, especially if you're the founder. If you have good reasons to want to exit, then I think you have to start talking about what are the scenarios. And there really are only two. If you think you can either sell something privately to someone who thinks they can do it better, faster, smarter, or you can sell it to a strategic buyer who, for whatever reason, thinks that what you've been doing fits well into their larger company strategy. So they may be rolling up companies like yours. And you just have to be sure going in, uh, what is my motivation here? Maybe it's your age. Maybe, you know what, I had a long career in the military. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've really enjoyed it. I've built something that has value here. I think I'd like to spend more time, pick the grandkids, traveling, or just general retirement. And I think it's time. Well, then you don't have urgency for an exit, but it's on your mind. And then you can start talking to friends. You can start talking to your banker. You can start learning about what kind of value could I really create here in an exit. And then you can go about it methodically. But it really does start with, and maybe you sell it to your employees. There's an array of those kinds of options. If the employees had if the employees had their choice, they would like to keep running it because they know it, they love it, they're all feeling very attached to it. Well, maybe you put together an ESOP or something, and you have the employees own the company. I mean, there's lots of interesting things you can do, but you need to give yourself time to not do it under pressure, and I think that's the big thought there.
You've had companies, looked at a lot of other companies. When somebody's wanting to start a business and do it well, what are signals that this is a strong business that you see? Or it could be things that you see that are mistakes that people make frequently. You could go either way.
Is this hypothetical company a company that's up and running, or is it a business plan?
That's up and running.
Okay, so if a company's up and running, I like walking around with the founder and asking them questions. And the reason I like asking questions is I can learn how deeply the founder is in the details of the company. So I might ask them, tell me about your margins. How are your margins in the different parts of the company? How is your procurement done? You know, things that kind of get into the details. Tell me about how you hire. Do you have wage bands? Do you have an easy one? Do you have an employee handbook that's the rules of codes of conduct for inside the company? It, just things to pressure test the founder on how buttoned down do I think they are. And I've invested in companies twice in my life where I knew better, where I did just what I'm describing to you, and they said an answer which made the hair stand up on my neck, and I still invested.
Lesson learned.
My bad. Yeah, yeah. So I mean that is what I do. I walk and talk with the founder through the operations. If maybe it's a ride along where they go meet their big customers or whatever. I like rolling my sleeves up and looking at a company from the inside out.
I could ask you questions all day long, but I'm going to switch gears now and ask you a couple of quick random questions. So, first off, what is one resource or tool that you use that makes your life easier or business?
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, I spend my first couple of hours in the morning poring over the internet, poring over news, poring over all the social communications that are out there, just to get a flavor for what are people talking about. What are the big things in the world right now? And obviously, it's very hard when you don't know who to trust with news, but you've got to be able to draw your own conclusions. So for me, my first 2 hours of the day are really important because I just feel like and I've got 20 or 30 websites that I go to, and I feel like I'm more prepared for the day uh, when I'm caught up on things. So
That's a good one.
that
I had a business professor that we were required, just like a lot of other business students, to have the Wall Street Journal. But his point was that this not only keeps you up to date on business, but it helps you in networking to have an intelligent conversation about many different subjects. So he's like, even if you just read the front page of the Wall Street Journal, you're going to be able to, one, just be part of the conversation, even if you're not, you can follow along. But
yeah,
also be able to comment or be involved in that conversation based off of staying up to date with the news. So
yeah,
I've always followed
wise
that
wise
habit. Yeah,
professor. Yeah, wise
yeah,
professor.
he was my favorite. Okay, what is your favorite book right now, or your favorite book of all time?
So couple of books that I've really enjoyed. One is called Shoe Dog. Okay, it's the story of Phil Knight and how he founded Nike, and it is fascinating. From when it was a germ of an idea to its first iteration to when it finally changed the name to Nike, and the way that the company grew is just really fascinating. So I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed that. I actually enjoyed Jan Wenner's autobiography, the Like a Rolling Stone. He is the founder of the Rolling Stone magazine, which was the Bible for classic rock and roll from back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and aughts. And that's that's just completely different. But the world that he saw and he grew up in and his periodical wrote about was just so I enjoyed that a lot too. I I am more and more attracted to business biographies, just to interesting people's backgrounds and how they did what they did and things like that. I used to like fiction. I don't anymore. I used to like a good John Grisham novel, but and it could just be partly my age, but I am definitely enjoying autobiographies of business leaders.
Yeah, there's a lot to take away from other people's lessons so you don't have to learn it the hard way. Or I
No
find
kidding.
that they're very inspiring to apply to my own business. Might be something completely different, obviously a completely different person, but it gives me inspiration for other things. So I like that. I will be sure to put links to both of those in the show notes for everybody. Now it is time for my favorite part of the podcast, which is game time. And today, in honor of your visit, we are going to play fact or fiction. So I'm going to give you 5 statements, and you have to tell me if they are fact or they are fiction. And Gary, if you get 3 out of the 5 right, you get bragging rights that you won game time on the MILMO Show.
Okay.
It's a big deal. Okay, here we go. Number 1. There are 8 bits in 1 byte. Fact or fiction? This one's hard. I'm starting off hard.
Fact.
It
Fact.
is a fact.
Yeah.
The 256 unique combinations of 8 on-off bits in 1 byte are often used to encode common letters or symbols in computer software. Okay.
You
Number
knew
2.
I'd know that one. I thought that was my softball. Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was a hard ball. So, okay. Fact or fiction? Harley-Davidson was the first company to be awarded a trademark for a sound, the distinctive exhaust noise of its V-twin engine. Fact or fiction?
Whoa, what a great question. I'm going to say fact.
It's actually fiction. It says Harley abandoned its application for a sound trademark in 2000. Trademarks have been awarded, however, for sounds such as the distinctive NBC chimes. So they did apply for it, but they did not get it.
Aha. Okay.
Okay. Number 3, in the game of Scrabble, in the game of Scrabble, an F is worth 3 points. Is that fact or fiction?
I'm not a Scrabble guy. Well, F
You got a
is not
50-50
that.
chance, Gary.
I know. I'm gonna call it fact.
It's fiction. It's worth 4 points. I didn't know that one either. That makes you feel better.
Okay.
Okay, number
So
4.
I have to get the last 2 to have bragging rights.
You've got, yes, you do.
Oh, pressure is on.
Yes, it is on. Okay. Charlie Chaplin once entered let me start that again. Charlie Chaplin once entered and won a Charlie Chaplin look-alike contest in San Francisco. Is that fact or fiction?
I'm gonna say fiction.
It is fiction. He entered the 1915 contest, but did not even make the finals. Isn't that hilarious?
Oh,
Okay,
man.
so you got that one right. It's down to this last one, Gary. It's tense. Okay. On the TV show, The Brady Bunch, the Brady's dog's name was Sam. Is that fact or fiction?
Fiction.
That is correct. The dog was named Tiger. Sam was the butcher who dated Alice, the maid. So you got bragging rights that you won game time on the MILMO Show.
Oh, by the skin of my teeth.
Well, I really appreciate you playing the game and for being on this show. Can you tell everybody listening where they can learn more about you and what you're up to?
Yes, and they actually can learn more about me and what I'm up to with my book that just came out, Always Learning, Lessons on Leveling Up from GameStop to Laura Mercier and beyond. The book covers my entire life, all my work and starting when I was 10 years old. So there's pretty much nothing left of me after that book that people won't know about.
Well, I will be sure to link to all of that in the show notes for everybody. Thank you so much, Gary.
You bet. Thank you.